Yo, what's up guys? It's your man, I Do a Barber, back with another haircut tutorial. And in this one, we're doing a drop fade down to skin. We're not gonna do much to the top, and this is an intro one. So this is full length. So enjoy, get your popcorn ready. And if you're new to the channel, do not forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and press the notification bell so you can stay up to date when I drop videos like this. So first I started off by brushing the hair into place. So I want to see how it grows, right? You want to know which way is best and just see how the hair naturally falls. But now I'm actually debulking, and I've got the Fat Master on with the lever open and I'm drawing my first guideline, and I'm keeping this line that I'm creating. You'll see, like, this will be the shape of the fade. Now this is a manner I work in when the sides tend to be a little bit bulky. I like to reduce the bulk first. I don't like to fade into long lengths of hair, and I don't recommend that a beginner does that either, because it could be a little hard to see the guidelines if you're fading into bulky hair. So now my lever's closed and we're gonna create the first ball guideline. And I like to create these guidelines with the lever closed on my adjustable. For me, I like this better than putting it in with a trimmer or what have you, because it leaves a much softer guideline, and that line therefore is a lot easier to remove. So I'll start off here with this, and then I'll come underneath with a trimmer, and then come underneath that with the shaver, which you'll see here in this tutorial. Actually, you know what? I don't think I use the shaver in this one. I think I just use the trimmer. So now, as you see, trimmer, time to bald out. So I'm just going right underneath that. And by the way, my adjustables are zero gap, so they flow right into these perfectly. So if you're curious, it's one of those things where setting up your tools the right way will definitely help you in your process of cutting hair. Whether you do a lot of skin fades or you do, I guess if you use guards, the guards are already set up for you, but that's the whole purpose. You want this stuff to make your life easier. You don't want to have to overwork yourself. But even with putting in guidelines, I recommend that you do not put your guidelines in harshly. If you struggle with, here's the thing. If you use guidelines and you struggle with removing guidelines, try this. Try not to put your guidelines in so harsh. Put them in very soft, therefore they'll be easy to remove. And I've learned this and really been focusing on this more lately with putting in much softer guidelines, because it'll help, one, like I say, removing the guidelines, but then it'll also speed up your fading process, because you could actually allow yourself to skip some steps. Maybe you won't have to use the half guard so much. Maybe you won't have to go all the way down to the lever closed. So just something to keep in mind, just a little tidbit for you. So as I finish to bald them out, we're gonna get into fading. So I'm starting off with the wall half, and I'm gonna use the lever closed. So typically, you would come in with the lever closed or the lever open with the adjustable and create your first guideline. But for this one, I'm just going in straight away with the lever closed. Now, I wanted to say something too about this. When you draw this first guideline, you always want to pay attention to the hair, right? So as you draw the guideline, you'll see what hair is being picked up and what isn't, what may be potential problems in the fade and what won't. So really pay attention when you do these guidelines, because it'll definitely tell you what's what and what's not. You see, like, potential problem areas, and then you can act accordingly. So here's a mistake I made right here. You see, I started off with the lever open to fade this out. Newsflash, breaking news, the wall half, when you close the lever and have the half closed, is actually shorter than the lever open. I found this out actually a while ago. I figured this out, but I shouldn't have started with the lever open. I should have started with the lever halfway, because that's the order of operation after that. if you're gonna start with the wall half with the lever closed, just go halfway on your lever, because that's the next step. And it's kind of why I like fading down with the wall clippers a lot of times, because they really flow well together. But then that wall half lever close is really close to being down to skin. It's really close to the lever closed. So all you have to do is, if you put your guideline in with the lever closed, just go halfway open with no guard on it and then close, and you're good. Or even if that depends on, like, again, how you put in your guidelines. So you see here, I started off with the lever open, but you see here, boom, I learned from my mistake on the other side, and I actually started off with the lever halfway, because I was like, wait a second, let's not waste time, because I started off, but then I checked myself. So again, it's just kind of weird. And boom, there we go. I'm closing the lever. It's pretty much almost closed here. And with this haircut, it's very difficult because his hair grows flat to the scalp, and it grows in different directions in some areas. So you got to do a lot of like detailing and buffing things out. So just is what it is. So now the lever's closed, as you can see. Boom, boom, boom. Just trying to make this as easy as possible. And now I'm just adjusting the lever, just trying to get some things that I see. But I'm going to be honest, like, now that I primarily fade with the Stylecraft Ergos, I don't start off with the lever closed anymore. This is just something I decided to do for this video. And it's so weird when I watch a lot of my YouTube videos. I tend to work in manners that I don't really do. I'm just going to be honest with you. That was just something I was doing for a few haircuts. It's definitely not something that I do on the regular, guys. So look, it's up to you. If you want to start with the lever closed, you can do it. Go right ahead. I'm just letting you know it's not something that I regularly do. It's something that I rarely do. Which actually, that reminds me, I actually have a new fade system that I use now, which in future tutorials, you'll see this new fade system that I use. And, I'm excited to show this to you guys, because it's helped speed me up, and it's helped, do other things for me. So now coming in with the Fat Master, you see I closed the lever a little bit, and now I'm working right underneath that guideline that we created. So as you saw, that shape of the fade that we created initially when we removed bulk, that was the guideline. The ball guideline was dictated off of that shape as well. So now we're following it to get this fade in order. So unfortunately, or I guess it depends on how you use it, but the Fat Master close does not completely fade into the lever open. It can, if you know how to use your wrist, if you know how to feather the right way, it can. But it's not something that is just boom, boom. It's not a 1-2. It's almost like a 1.5, 2. Not in guard lengths. We're just talking about the literal numbers. So it's not as smooth, but you can get there. It's just like with the wall guard system. Some people don't use the half, and they still have really good fades because they know how to use the corners and different things like that. Sort of the same thing with this, if you choose to work like that. So as you see here, I'm just slowly closing the lever, and right now the lever's closed, and you see how just a little bit, it's leaving just a little bit. That's what I'm talking about, where maybe you want to try and use the corners, or maybe you just want to use the half and clean up that, which in this video I chose to use the half. So we're going to do the same thing on the side, but before we do that, I'm going to retrace that guideline, because as you can see, it's a little kind of disappeared there on that side. So I'm just going to retrace it, give myself a nice area to fade right here, and then we're going to get right into the fading. So boom, closing the lever, and we're going to work right underneath just like this. Now, typically, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't use the Fat Master a lot to do full fades. I use the Fat Master a lot for tapers. I use the Fat Masters a lot for cleaning up when the guards are not doing their damn job, because you guys know me for fading with the blades a lot. But recently, now that I have these Starcraft ergos, I've been fading with the ergos using the guards, whether it's the single or the Andis double magnetics or the wall premiums. But I've noticed in both scenarios, sometimes it just doesn't get everything. And I know the Fat Master can pick up a lot of the stuff that the guards can't. So this is definitely not something that I typically do, doing a complete fade, like ball fade with the Fat Masters. So this is me in rare form, if you will. So but the Fat Master blade, it's an amazing blade, amazing. It really does come in handy. Like let's say someone wants a 1 to a 2 or something on the sides, I'll use the Fat Master. It's perfect for this. Or if someone wants a 2, or it's just like whatever. In a barber's arsenal, like you'll have so many different tools. Not all barbers, of course, but some have many different tools that they'll use for certain purposes that could get the job done a lot quicker than something else. That's what the Fat Master for. It's like a Swiss Army knife. You can do a fade with it. You can clean up with it. You can remove bulk with it. So it's a really good utility tool. So now, as you see, I'm fading out the back. Now, I must also say this. I don't fade like this, where I'm doing this whole like half and doing like in 3 panels. I don't work like this normally. This is just some YouTube nonsense. If you guys watch me cut hair, I work around the entire head and boom. Of course, you'll detail in spots, but when it comes to putting in the fade like this, no, I do not work like this. This is only for YouTube, Especially if you guys have watched any of my cutting hair on a Sunday or Monday videos and just watch the actual workflow and how I work on the day-to-day, you'll obviously see that it's contrary to what you're watching here. But this just helps, for you guys' viewing pleasure. So as you all know, the back is a little bit more difficult than the side. So you'll see here, as I get down to the lever close, it's still going to be pretty dark, which means I'm going to have to whip out the wall half. You see right here, whipping out the wall half, because that hair is just dark in the back. And this is the case with a lot of people. That back panel of the hair is just much more difficult. And especially, the lower you go down the tip of the bone, man, you got to stretch that area out. You really do. It's really important. So just always take note of that. There's, of course, exceptions to that rule, where some people will have hair that's not so difficult in the back, but he does. So it's one of those things. So as you see here, you see that dark spot where I was talking about how it just doesn't fade completely. I'm whipping out the wall half to do some stuff, and we're going to go back a little bit later. But for now, I've got the 3.5 blade, which was this. I'm using 4 different clippers so far in this video. That's so funny. 4 different clippers already in this video. Which that's one thing too about the ergos. It's the ergos. What I love about them, it's really reduced my need for using a lot of clippers for a haircut. Like with the ergos, I've eliminated the need for using the detachables a lot, or even maybe the Fat Master, and I like it, but it definitely has sped up a lot of my haircuts using the ergos, because they cut really well. But this is why I like this 3.5, like, and this is why I always will keep a detachable, because they're very useful. Like even case in point today, I use detachables. because they serve a good purpose. Like, the one thing I don't like about the guards is, especially when you're using wall guards, especially once you get above that, well, once you get to the 1.5, 2, 3, 4, it'll leave it'll leave lines, that raky look in the hair, especially if someone has thinner hair like this one. It just doesn't pick up the hair very well. And this is where the Fat Master and the blades come into place, because they'll pick that hair up and give you the reaction that you want, which is exactly why I keep it around. Because if I were to have to do a 2 guard on the side, I'd have to go over so much. And you got that little raky look, and that annoys me so much. I like much more of that smoother look into the length on top versus that raky look as you go into the length on top. If you guys know what I'm talking about, real barbers will know what I'm talking about with that raky look. Will leave lines in the hair, which means if you want to get rid of that, you got to go over and over and over and over. But with blades or the Fat Master, like, you don't really have that problem. It's just boom, quick action. So as you see here, there's little dark spots going into the length on top, and we're just cleaning all that stuff up. Very, very simple. And of course, I got to spread this out in the back, of course, because you saw, that area is a little tricky. So a lot of detailing has went into this haircut, and we will continue to detail more in this haircut, because it's just his hair. It just requires a lot of detailing. What's funny? I'm gonna shoot another video doing this haircut, and I'm gonna shoot it using my new system. And I'm curious to see, 1, how quicker it is, and 2, if the haircut comes out better, and 3, the time. I'm really curious about the time aspect of it. How much easier it is, time, speed, the efficiency. I'm curious with all that stuff, so I haven't used the ergos on this hair, which, who knows, maybe you guys will see that video coming soon, which will be kind of weird, because you're going to see this haircut this week, and then who knows, maybe the next week you'll see his haircut again, but with the ergos this time. So as I told you guys, a lot of detail work went into this haircut, and that's continuing. So I've got the wall half, and I'm doing more detail work. So a lot of detailing went into this haircut. But with my new system, I really like it. I really, really do like it. And for me, it makes a lot of sense. I don't want to really let the cat out of the bag or talk about that, because I'm trying to focus more on this haircut. But boy, I hope it helps you guys. That's all I'm going to say. I hope it can add some clarity to some of your problems or struggles. That's all. I'm just going to leave it at that. So I'm using the wall to get that little area that I was talking about, where the open lever does not fade into the Fat Master's closed. So, and his hair's tricky too. If you don't cut his hair regularly, it'll just start growing every which way, and it just becomes a problem. And that's one thing I hated about his hair. So right now I'm using the thinner shears to connect to the top, because that little front portion there was a little funky. So I'm just doing a little bit of softening. You could use clipper over comb, like whatever you want to use. It's up to you, You see here, I took the guard off, and boom. That's the funny thing about his haircut. Like, it's always been the most difficult haircut for me to do. I don't know if it's just like one of those Smokey and Debo in the Friday movie, you got mind control over me. I don't know what it is, but it's just always the most difficult for me to do. There was only one time where I cut his hair and it was really easy. And I was like, wow, I was kind of, surprised, but I don't know. do not know. And here, his haircut too, lighting plays a big part of it. You know, if the light doesn't, if it hits it at the wrong area, it won't look all that great, you know. And again, he has that thin, straight hair when it's short, and it lays flat to the scalp. So you got to really make sure you fade it well. And it also shows every single mistake you make, which, you know, this canvas is definitely not a canvas for beginners, because this is a very tough haircut for beginners, just based on his hair type, texture, and everything. It's really difficult for a beginner. That's why a lot of people love the coarse hair, thick, coarse hair, you know, and because it fades really well, it shows well. Yeah, that's not the case with him. You know, you gotta put the work in. But again, you know, if you have a good system, yeah. And see, I'm doing more detail work. And what I've noticed about the Fat Masters, every time I try to do a full fade with the Fat Master, I notice I have to do a ton of detail work. And maybe that's just due to the Fat Master. Who knows? Maybe it's just me. You know, maybe I'm using them improperly. I don't know. But yeah. So as you can see there, you can see if you rewind like 5 seconds, you can see like the light hitting his hair at a certain angle. So now we're going to do the edge up, and I'm starting off with the hooks first. This is something I do. I wouldn't say I do it all the time, but I do it sometimes. I'll just start from the bottom up. It's just something I do. You know, I'll create these, and then I'll do the front edge up across the front, and then I'll do the bars. I work in a weird manner sometimes, but at the end of the day, in whatever manner I'm working in, it's systematic. So if I'm going to start with the curves first, I'm going to do those first, then move up, and then, you know, work in an order. So it's just like if I'm going to do the front of the hairline first, I'll do that first, then this, then this. So as you saw there, I just did a little bit of detailing because that front piece there was a little bit bulky. But I'm just going to continue to go into his edge up, you know, just creating it. Now, when you do this, you want to make sure that you're matching it to the other side. Like you look at him at a front profile and you see where that other side is. Now, of course, you don't want to go in too crazy with it. You want to try and keep it as natural as possible, but you want to definitely look at that other side just to make sure that both sides are even, because if you do this first, this will be your guide. You know, this is what your edge up will be dictated off of, which that can be a little bit tricky too. I guess that's one of the dangerous parts of doing this, is that you don't know exactly, you know, the whole edge up situation. But you know, once you get used to your clients, you'll know the best way to work, you know, and you'll know ways not to work. So right now you see I'm looking at them in the front just to see if it's even. And then now I've got to come back and make a little adjustment. So again, it just depends on which manner you work. I could have done the front of his hairline first, then did this. You know, some people might say, oh, never do this and never do that. But hey, guys, like it is what it is, guys. It's actually funny. Today, I just thought about this. My last haircut of the day, I worked just like this, just like what I'm doing. But I did the vertical bars first. Oh, now here's a mistake I just made. Another mistake I made. So learn from my mistake here, guys. If you're clipping up someone's hair to do their edge up, here's what I recommend you do. Do not put too much tension on their hair where it forces their skin back. Because what I noticed in this haircut is when I took those clips out, his forehead shrunk back down, which meant his hairline went forward, if that makes sense. So you'll see I'm creating the line straight across, right? And once that's done, this line is created. And when I took the clips out, his hairline went forward, which means it was no longer straight. There was a weird curve in the center. So just a little piece of advice, if you're putting in these clips on people's hair, don't put too much tension. Just put enough to put their hair back and secure in place. Don't put too much tension like I did, okay? So learn from my mistake. So the bars here, you see I'm doing it with the razor. Now, sometimes I do this on some people. Like I say, I have weird manners that I work in. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I don't. You know, when it's someone who has like a thinner area there, sometimes I like to do that because the trimmers can be problematic trying to get in there and not cut their eyebrow off. So I do that sometimes. So now you see I'm doing the razor work here, and yeah, keeping it pretty simple, stretching the skin and just getting that stubble, just trying to refine his hairline. You know, very simple, guys. You see I'm backhanding, going against the grain right here because there were just a few follicles. And as you all know, you know, 1 or 2 follicles can make a difference in a hairline. You know, it can just make it look a little off. And that's what's so crazy about trying to perfect a haircut, you know, because the closer you get to perfection, the more possibilities of things going wrong. So as you see here on this side, I'm using the clippers, which I don't know why I use the clippers on this side versus actually, no, it may be because the hair was a little bit longer. So I just decided to use the clippers. You see right there, I just comb the hair forward a little bit, which I think that's why I use this instead of the razor. But of course, I'm going to refine with the razor. As you can see, I'm going with the grain because, you know, kids have a lot of that vellus hair on the front of their forehead. And I always recommend you guys with kids, shave their foreheads. Shave their foreheads because it'll add contrast to your work. You know, you don't just want to just tap the hairline and you got a bunch of other vellus hair on the forehead. Or, I mean, even if you just use the trimmers, just use it to clean off their foreheads. So as you see, they're backhanding to get whatever stubbles is left. And just keeping it very simple. And see, now I'm going against the grain just because there was just a little stubble there. Like I say, in this area, a little tricky. And of course, you know, more detail work because once you put an edge up on something, it exposes things. Just like I told you earlier, the closer something gets to perfection, the more flaws will appear, or the more things that you'll find wrong with something, the closer you get to perfection. Because when something's perfect, it's easy to spot something out of place. So that's just a little tip, or just something to, you know, food for thought, because a lot of people wonder about that. Like, man, I want to have the perfect haircut, but just know the perfect haircut comes at a cost. You know, like you're going to spend your days chasing perfect. You're going to, you know, have that paralysis by analysis. You know, you're constantly trying to reach this like mythical thing that may not be there, you know, because this haircut may not be perfect to some people. But here's the look. Drop fade down to skin. You know, we didn't do anything with the top. You know, edge up. Cool look. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, I'm going to reshoot this haircut using the Stylecraft Ergos. You guys are going to see how easier it is using my new face system, because this haircut took a little bit too long. But again, you know, this was YouTube, so it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.